folks, and welcome back to another edition of Money in Motion. Today's show title, Bear Trap or Opportunity, which I decided to spell with 3 P's because it's that. Um, so yeah, Monte, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing good, CJ. I'm doing good. You always manage to make me laugh in the morning, and that's what we need today. Some laughs, because I don't know. Some charts are looking relatively ugly, but there's plenty to talk about today. Amazon has earnings after hours, as well as Coinbase, two big names in terms of speculative stocks. I think that um, your title sums it up. Is this a bear trap, or is this an opportunity to buy and fade the bears? We shall see. But I'm going to make a case for I'm going to make a case for the fact that this is a bear trap. I'll explain why. But if there's anything you would like to start with, my friend, please go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Robinhood actually beat on the top and bottom, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and then we're down like 10% today. So one thing I will show, and I don't know necessarily if this will translate to coin, but one thing that I did talk about just briefly and some relationship that I think is quite interesting is if you look at the correlation or just how Coinbase and Robinhood have traded next to one another. So this chart is what I'm talking about. So yeah, a lot of interesting correlation, especially during the recent rally. Robinhood kind of rallying with Coinbase on the back of that ETF news. I don't know if that was a direct catalyst for Robinhood, but they've been making a ton of money with high rates and the Robinhood Gold members earning interest and things of that sort. I think they made 250 million off of interest alone. Regardless, though, it looks like a lot of that anticipation was probably a result of the lead up in price that we saw over the last month. So, perhaps Coinbase is something similar where, basically everybody looks at all the ETF news. Also Base, people were saying like Base made, I think 780K in the first day or two, which translates to a lot of money. Obviously, if you were to multiply that every single day for 360 days, I don't know if that type of profitability is like sustainable for Coinbase. It was the first week, kind of like on Threads. You get the first week excitement, it plateaus. Then maybe the true authenticity of the value shows itself and more users come back. But either way, it seems like a lot of that stuff could have the potential to be priced in on Coin, but I hate speculating around what price will do according to earnings. I'm kind of just flat. We'll see. Monte, any thoughts on Coinbase currently and its earnings?
Yeah. I mean, the similarities between Coinbase and Robinhood, that does cause me a bit of concern, but I feel like Coinbase has the potential to beat on the top and bottom line more significantly than Robinhood did. If you look at how Robinhood beat, I mean, it's kind of like the AMD effect. Like, oh wow, well, I mean, they barely scraped out any earnings. Revenue was up 2.7%. That's not bad, but clearly not enough for investors to send it to new highs. So, does that translate to Coinbase? We shall see. I don't think it will. I think Coinbase has generated a lot more revenue, and their earnings per share will look a lot better, and thus we could see, a move to the upside. Also, a lot of it has to do with timing. Like, yesterday was just in general a very bad day for the markets across the board, regardless of what you were trading. So it doesn't matter if it was Robinhood or if it was, Tesla. There was some significant sell pressure in all of those stocks. So I think that Coinbase, now that the market seems to be turning a bit, and it's not just Coinbase. Coinbase is up 1% today, but if you take a look at some of the other big tech names as well, they look like they're kind of starting to either, show some signs of positive price action or at least kind of just level out. And, look like they want to make another run at those highs. And I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. But one thing that I think I'll still keep pounding this drum because I still think it's incredibly important is the DXY. I think the DXY needs to fall back down to the lows below 100 if we want to see equities break back into new highs. And that's ultimately what I'm, watching. I check this pretty much first thing every day, and seeing it up today doesn't have me too convinced with the move that we're seeing in a lot of the tech stocks. But that could all change, right? That could all change tomorrow. We could see the DXY fall back down to this critical level of 102. Even that retracement would be enough to provide some significant room for these assets to move to the upside. And I think Coinbase would significantly benefit if the DXY pulled back to that critical level of 102. So, yes, Robinhood did beat earnings and then drop significantly. And yes, they have been moving very comparably throughout the last, basically the entire year. And even before that, they were moving comparably. I think that's just because they serve a very similar demographic, perhaps, and speculators treat them comparably. But at the end of the day, I think we see a reversal of the XY, a move back down to 102, and that allows us to see some positive price action in equities. And coin's not, at the end of the day, coin isn't Robinhood. And I think that it beats on the top and bottom, and we see some significant positive price action here. So you can see that, obviously this level of 85 is highly critical for Coinbase. If anything, if you want to play earnings, just buy spot and put a stop at 85. That's how I would play it. I wouldn't use options. That's pretty much more of a gamble, I'd say, uh, unless you're like buying maybe a in the money call spread, but that would be very expensive. I think the best thing to do would just be to buy spot, set a stop at this level of 85. If it breaks below, cut your losses. But if it beats earnings on the top and bottom, you have some significant upside to gain. From 90 back towards the highs. I think it could make a run at the highs. And that would be a nice little gain, and I'd be happy to take profit once we reached about 110. But those are my thoughts on Coinbase. Long-winded, apologies about that, but that's what I'm seeing. CJ, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, my primary focus is trying to buy the generational bottom on Coinbase here in the next few months. We'll see. I mean, it's getting closer to that point, though. And every time these crypto equities go up like 3% or 4%, even though we're in a downtrend, I still feel tremendously underexposed. But perhaps we'll get another shot here. We'll see. Obviously, earnings are going to be interesting, but yeah, I don't know. Remember GoCo? Remember that one?
Yeah, of course. The health company.
That had some tremendous earnings, but it did the same thing as Robinhood, where basically a lot of people took profit in anticipation of the positive earnings, and then it turned into a sell the news event. So it's tough to gauge whether or not Coinbase's earnings are going to end up being something like that, or if people are going to be like, oh, this company actually has a strong foothold in the future of the industry that isn't going away. So we'll see how those two narratives face off in the ring against one another.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. And this is also an interesting question, CJ, from Andrew. I think it's worth talking about. He says, if coin surprises on numbers or even gets a bounce regardless, perhaps Hood trades back to the upside. I mean, that would make sense based on the chart that you showed and how they've been so tightly correlated. Any thoughts on that in terms of Robinhood? Would you be taking a shot on it after it's been beat down so bad post earnings?
I don't think I've ever traded Robinhood. And I wasn't really planning on starting, but I think it's an interesting metric or comparison because Coinbase has been the faster horse. I don't know if there's necessarily a reason to trade Robinhood long term, but yeah, I mean that's certainly like a catch up parity type trade that could be plausible. Not one that like I have a system for or that I could take. Like if I took that trade 100 times, I don't know if it would be profitable, quite frankly. With my luck, we'll see. I mean, but it's interesting. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Hood, it does look so oversold. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me how it dropped so significantly after beating earnings. Like, what were people looking for it to move to the upside? I guess people were just offsides and expecting, a particularly strong move to the upside on the thesis that there's so many people with Robinhood Gold paying subscriptions and using, and they're generating yield from that capital that people have on that platform. But uh, it does, regardless of what Coinbase does. Like, even if Coinbase moves like back towards 100, yeah, I could see Robinhood making a actually strong move to the upside. So that's a good point, Andrew. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I mean, when you look at this chart, like, I don't know, it is most definitely catching a falling knife to trade this right now. You're catching a knife that's falling at like 1,000 miles per hour, but it's all the more impressive if you do catch it by the handle, right? Um, that's one way to look at it. But this is looking like it could end up being a massive doji candle, perhaps indicative of a reversal. Um, it's tough to say. One thing that I'd say is encouraging is that it's finding support at this critical level where we saw a lot of distribution all throughout basically the end of last year and even at the beginning of this year. But this level here of about $11 is where we've seen so much distribution. And the run up at the end of the year into the beginning of the year, that's where we saw it kind of halted, broke above it this time, but now we've fallen back into that realm. So you also have that going for you. Like, this is a decent reversal point and also a good point of like risk management. I would say, if it dips below like $11, then just, or I'd give yourself a little bit of breathing room, like 1080, 1085 if you're buying spot. Um, I could definitely see this one playing some catch up tomorrow, following Coinbase's earnings, but we'll see. We shall see. CJ, anything you would like to jump into next, my friend?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just looking for this 10hedge tweet about Coinbase. They were basically like shitting on the customers, saying that they would rather give their point whatever percent to Vlad as opposed to buying treasuries or whatever. And it's like, I don't understand this like generational gap between using Robinhood and or trading on Robinhood and trading in like Fidelity or um, not really on topic. We're getting a little bit off topic, but like it just like everyone does pay for order flow. And yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand why like the older generation can't appreciate what like Robinhood has done to onboard new people into the everyday person into the stock market. Anyways,
Oh,
I don't know why I'm
yeah.
getting off on this rant, but it's like you have no appreciation for like the work and the simplicity of that user interface, and like yeah,
Yeah,
there's so
trading.
many thoughts here that I could go off on. Then I'll pass back to you.
No, CJ, we love your rants. People always mention your rants are always great. So if you want to go on one, don't stop yourself. I can see you filtering yourself. I don't like it. I want unfiltered, CJ. But I totally agree with you. I mean, if you think about the same people that are complaining about that benefited massively from the amount of people that came in during like 2020 and 2021 post COVID. Everyone and their mother was trading on Robinhood. It was like Coinbase in 2017. Like, yeah, of course Coinbase was good for Bitcoin. It was the one on ramp that people had. And Robinhood, for the longest time, finance was like gate, it was like gate kept. Like, if you wanted to trade, like even E-Trade, like the interface is
They're awful. They make it difficult on purpose because they
yeah,
want to push you away from the game.
yeah, exactly. And you and like that's like what the SEC argued, that like Robinhood is like gamifying this whole thing. But at the end of the day, I don't give a shit. More money's coming into the space because it's easier to use the app than loading up like E-Trade and paying a $5 fee every time you want to pay. Commissionless trading, getting a stock on referral, all that led to, like, I could make a strong argument that the bull market of 2021 and 2020 post COVID would not have been nearly as strong without Robinhood, because it onboarded billions of dollars that ended up going into the market. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, combining that with Wall Street bets, you likely would not have gotten the meme stock like explosions like Hertz and like these random companies that nobody really thinks about anymore. Um, that was all Robinhood in large respect, or at least
yeah.
Wall Street bets. Anyways, let's get to some more assets, because I don't want to split the generational crowd any further.
No, Andrew says we should choose a topic each day to go on a rant about. That definitely wouldn't be a problem. There's plenty of stuff to rant about. Um, CJ rants quite often. I'd be very happy if he got it out here, instead of while we're like gaming later at night and have to listen to him talk about whatever he's upset about. But he's always got a good rant or two in him.
That's very flattering. Thanks. Okay. Moving on. So yeah, this is one I took a shot on last night. Posted the entry in our Discord. I really like this feature on TradingView where it'll actually just like show you your executions for like particular trades if you have a broker integrated within TradingView. So it always makes it just a little bit more clear, especially if you're trying to post entries and whatnot. Anyways, nice stop loss above this level, 307 roughly speaking. But heating oil, especially this September contract, it's interesting to notice kind of like the differentiation between where the up month contract trades versus like the continuous. So if you look at the front month, like September, we're already at previous highs or near previous highs that we touched, like in October and November of 22. Whereas if you look at the continuous, we're basically just coming up from like an underside retest. But yeah, that's interesting to me. Also, one thing I will say in terms of just technicals, this reminds me a lot of Phantom, like the Phantom chart. It reminds me a lot of this underside retest. I think the one in heating oil was a little bit more smooth, but like here, let me. Like it looks pretty much the same as heating oil does right now. Not saying it has to repeat or anything, but like you're coming up resistance. Maybe it's just me, realizing a pattern where none exists, but that looks pretty similar to me. And then when you compare it to like heating oil, just massive run the last couple of days, getting the first signs of weakness. There's a ton of longs up there, and they will be forced to cover. This kind of reminds me actually of orange juice. Orange juice went limit down yesterday. One of the first times I'd seen that recently, and continues to sell off today. So perhaps that's something that turns like what heating oil ends up looking like towards the end of next week, where you have this massive uptrend of basically green days for 2 weeks in a row. And then, you get a top, and then all those are kind of forced to cover. And perhaps we go back down to like 280 here. That's kind of how I'm playing it and how I'm thinking about heating oil. That's the only short position I'm really in, other than soybean oil, because I think this is another interesting shorting opportunity. These are like, it's the same type of idea around like a strong dollar. I think commodities traditionally like will probably go down as you see a stronger and stronger dollar. So the dollar bears have been in trouble this week. You've probably seen a lot of short covering. I'm interested to see the COT data on the dollar and how like imbalanced it is and how it's changed. But yeah, I think that, in the short term, this is one that I'll take a shot on as well. I'll have the stop up above these previous levels. But this has been a nice trending asset, and looks like we're starting to get, in the next couple days we might have a bearish cross. So perhaps that turns into a trend following opportunity. Perhaps I'm a bit early. We'll see. But either way, when you look at like the COT positioning, those two positions, and then I never really talked about oats. I basically just exited oats once it got back to break even. Still looks a little bit strong, but that's another potential one that is still crowded long that could break down. But that remains to be seen. But that's really all I'm looking at in terms of today. Bitcoin still kind of not doing a whole lot. I said yesterday that when we were basically at our top, like, this is the best Bitcoin's looked in the past couple of weeks, which was true at the time. And then, top tick came in shortly after that. So we'll see. Monte said to me this morning, we were kind of chatting, and he's like, this feels like such a bear trap. And I agree, it does. However, I think it could be even a bigger bear trap if we keep going down next week, and that 5 to 10% sell off in stocks kind of continues. That's when you get everybody like, oh, I guess we were wrong about the bull market or something. And then it's all based on the positioning. You just got to see more shorts come in, or people get more aggressive towards the bear side. The VIX continues to spike up to rapid levels, and then Zero Hedge publishes some bearish thing, and then new flows come in and we get bid back up. So that's what I'm thinking probably happens. So I'm not really doing a whole lot in equities until we start seeing at least some bids.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Not the bids just aren't there, and until they come back, I think it's best to just wait. I do think there are some opportunities in crypto. They're kind of few and far between, but I mean there are some charts that look pretty good. But first, there are a lot of comments regarding our rants. CJ, I was thinking, I swear, if you reference anything, now I'm not talking to CJ, I'm talking to the audience. If you reference anything, like anything at all, CJ has a Family Guy reference to go along with it. So I was thinking maybe we could do a sort of like grind my gears segment. This really grinds my gears. And
all right, I'll go. All right, I'll say what I was going to say previously. You get these old guys who made tons of money, in their day, making like brokerages or whatever. And then they see these new kids like Vlad come up, and they're like, oh yeah, of course they want a pretty app just because they're smoking weed in California in Silicon Valley. And it's just like, there's no respect for the next wave. It's like, who you think's going to inherit all of this money in the next 20 years? And how are you going to prepare for that? Maybe we could have gone without that rant, but anyways, let's move on.
No, all rants appreciated. I think the audience has made that pretty clear. But yeah, let's move on. A few more things just real quick before we wrap it up. We're approaching it about a half an hour here. OG DeFi, I forget who it was yesterday, asked us if DeFi Summer was back on. We've been talking about how reminiscent these last few weeks have been to 2019. Such low vol in Bitcoin, positive price action in equities, Bitcoin underperforming relative to equities. All of it reminded me very much of 2019. And you can say the same thing about positive price action in OG DeFi. And Uniswap has been like, this is just such a unique uptrend to me. What's happening is the perpetual futures market is causing these big red candles to occur, but then every single time without fail, it seems to get bought back up and continue to go higher. So, I have a target of about 7.4. This was something that I had put in the Discord a while back, but I still think it does eventually make it there. Because if you look at things as well, like Maker, obviously there's reasons, beyond just pure speculation that this thing's pumping. I know the founder sold a bunch of Lido in order to kind of prop up his own token, I guess you could say. But regardless, this thing's nearing all-time highs, and that is definitely worth noting, because if it does break into new all-time highs, I mean, this thing could plausibly keep running. But when you see a chart like this, I think you should instinctively look elsewhere, and that's why I like Uni. I've been saying that I like it, and we do have a bit of diminishing volume, but regardless, like, look how strong this uptrend's been. This is something that we saw in 2019 as well, because one thing that CJ and I talked a lot about kind of yesterday and all throughout the week is how when you get to this point in the market where Bitcoin is looking like this, and it's just flat as a pancake, and there's just no opportunity to make money. Like, how do you make money trading this? Like, are you a high frequency trader? Are you like, you're not making money trading this? Stop lying to yourself. Like, look elsewhere. We've seen it in the past, because there's only so many participants, right? And if they're not trading Bitcoin, what are they trading? And we talked about, like, the same people in crypto kind of cannibalizing each other. I think right now where the focus is in OG DeFi, much like it was in 2019, excuse me. And I think you could see some of these charts actually start to make some pretty nice moves in the coming days. I mean, Uni already has made a really nice move since the middle of June. I think it could continue to make that move as long as Bitcoin continues to trade sideways, because all that's left in this market is basically like the sophisticated OG crypto users, and they're users of Uniswap and also speculators in Uniswap as well. So one thing I will say, be very careful, because obviously you have these instances where you can get these big sell-offs. So I wouldn't long it with anything more than like 2 to 3x leverage, if any leverage at all. But I do like it as a long after getting beat up pretty bad yesterday. Any thoughts on Uniswap or OG DeFi in general, CJ?
Yeah, did you see Paradigm and A16Z made 70% on Maker after like 3 years of having seed round allocations? Yeah, the point of VC investing is not to be good. It's to be earlier than everybody else and have advantages over everybody else, because you have more capital. But it's not to be good. I mean, that position they had up thousands of percent and basically round tripped it because of lockups and stuff like that. So I think that from that respect, like, you as a retail investor do have a very significant edge over certain VC, not an edge, but an advantage over VCs in that regard. But in terms of like playing Maker or buying OG DeFi, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask regarding that type of thing right now. I haven't really been trading it a whole lot, and I haven't been following necessarily the tech developments, aside from like base. But I think it is bullish for the space overall. Like, it's good to see people still coming back and willing to speculate, similar to like 2019. But as for those assets, I think they're kind of overextended. I still hold some Lido. It looks like the founder of Maker selling off his Lido may have put a bottom in there this week. Maybe not. We'll see. But
Now that you just said it, probably not. But we'll see. I hope I do hold a little bit of Lido myself, so I hope you're right in that sense. But yeah, that's about all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, really, really appreciate it. All the comments, all the questions. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you very, very much. And if you haven't yet, definitely head over to tradethechain.com. You can try it 14 days free. You get access to the Trade the Chain platform, where you can see what coins are trending in terms of sentiment, what coins are trending in terms of volume. And also you get access to the Discord with a community of members from all around the world that share their insights. And also we share our insights with you that are actionable, with entries, exits, and stop losses. So definitely head over there and check that out. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Much appreciated. But But CJ, I'll leave you with the final word, my friend.
Yeah, come hang out. We're trading some heating oil, so things are very exciting at the moment. All right. See you next time, guys. We'll be back tomorrow.
Take care.